Coming off a best bet sweep in college football week 10. College football week 11 is upon us. We've got more of those barking dogs. Of course, we're going to break down those top 25 games. Get a little look from behind the computer screen in the steam room from VR. Marco's Deli still rocking and rolling. If you guys have been following along there, another 6-2-1 week. Man, 27-17 on the season. And of course, we're going to try to sweep those best bets again up next on Bet On It. Kelly Stewart here, VR in the middle, Marco sitting there in the third chair. Guys, this has been a really great week outside of my Kansas State Wildcats, and we're going to try to run it back here with the TV games. Marco, this is a game that I'm going to be getting involved in, but I'm really curious to see your thoughts on this Big 12 matchup, 12 p.m. Eastern. Number 8, BYU, catching 10.5. Now, I know this is one that's kind of went back and forth. At Texas Tech, number 9 in the country, 53.5. And I lied. VR is going to touch on this game. I'm just so excited, you guys. Like when you have that great week, like I did opening line report with Teddy on Monday morning, if you guys haven't seen that yet. And it was so hard for me because I'm like, what do you mean, Teddy? I had a 4-1 week. What do you mean, Teddy? Like when you have a good week, you're giddy. You're excited for that next week coming up. And right now I'm excited. If you guys are excited, drop it in the comment section. Say something nice maybe for a change because we kicked ass last week. We're going to do it again this week. VR, tell me you like Texas Tech here.
Yeah, and right now in college football, Bet On It, 23-7, 23-7 overall, and 9-1 on these TV games. Now, I haven't released a premium play here, but I trust my power ratings, and I know I've gotten pushback in the comment section, but so far, I think we're ahead. Again, not every time is the team that I say is the better power rated team, like they're going to lose that next week. But what I'm trying to explain is they're overvalued. They're higher ranked than they should be. And as we've seen with a lot of these teams, the Miamis, the Georgia Techs, they'll start dropping in the rankings like they should. BYU, another perfect example. Now, this isn't a bet on Texas Tech. This is a fade of BYU because I do think Texas Tech is also a little bit higher than they should be on the rankings. But the difference is BYU's just way out there. In fact, BYU's not a top 10 team. BYU's not a top 20 team. BYU's barely a top 30 team power rating wise. And that's what we're looking to fade here. Now, the negative for Texas Tech is the recency bias. That's what's held me off from firing. They're coming off back-to-back wins where they scored 40 plus and outperform the betting market. When a team does that, you expect a correction. That's what's kept me off Texas Tech. Had they not blown out Kansas State, had they not shut out Oklahoma State, I think we'd be laying 7.5, 8 here, and then we'd be firing a 4% play. But they got it up to double digits. That's keeping me off of getting to the window. And I think it's enticing BYU money, which I really do think is the wrong side. Listen, BYU's continues to not just win, but outperform the betting market. And I always talk about that. It's very efficient. It's going to correct. And when you're winning like BYU is, and not just covering games, but winning outright as an underdog, like that's really outperforming. It's very hard to sustain that. So for me, it's a fade of BYU here. I like the Texas Tech side. Again, more about BYU real quickly. Strength of schedule, barely top 50th strength of schedule. And with this easy schedule like that, don't even have a top 20 offense, barely have a top 20 defense, barely have a top 20 offense. Lay the points here with Texas Tech. They should win this one by 3+ touchdowns. I haven't gotten to the window yet, but I do like the Texas Tech side.
Yeah, I think I'm going to get to the window on the Texas Tech side. We'll kind of see. You mentioned that BYU money. All jokes aside, my dad, when I talked to him this morning, he loves BYU. You guys know what to do. This reminds me of last week's matchup when I leaned Cincinnati early in the week, and Marco said, not so fast, Kelly. You need to be paying attention to this Utah team. I'm going to say this. Yes, Texas Tech blew out Kansas State last week, but yes, be wary. That fourth quarter was a little bit more indicative of the defense being a little bit tired and K-State basically puking all over themselves. Marco D'Angelo, you're going to have to wait a few more minutes because I'm going to break down the 3:30 p.m. Eastern game number 3, Texas A&M -7.5 at number 19, Missouri. 48.5 here is the total right now on the odds logic screen. Kind of different thought process here, right? I know that I've been saying I've been wanting to fade Texas A&M several times this year. And I haven't really found great spots. There was a couple of different opportunities where they did not cover, but Texas A&M is looking like a solid team like they've been paying for the last decade. But this Mizzou team, not only as a home underdog, 17-9, they are on an epic run here. 22-9-1 against the spread, coming off their bye. You guys remember they ended up losing that game to Vanderbilt 2 weeks ago, despite having over 100 yards as an edge, right? So we want to kind of look for those teams. Yes, the third-ranked Aggies. Everybody wants to talk about them, but VR talks about power ratings. I'll get with him here in a minute to see where he has the Aggies rated, but they're definitely not a top 5 team. Missouri's run defense, I think, is going to be able to stifle that offense. We're going to kind of keep an eye on it. Colin Klein's name's been thrown out a lot, not just for Kansas State, but I've heard Oklahoma State, Arkansas for head coaching jobs. Eventually, some of that chatter kind of gets in the way of some of these teams, so keep in mind there. I haven't got to the window with Mizzou money line just yet, but no, they're on my long list to possibly make my 3-team underdog parlay. VR, really quick before we get to Marco, Can you tell me where you have A&M rated in your power ratings?
A&M's not in my top 10 yet. They have not cracked the top 10. I'm telling you now. I would make Penn State favored over Texas A&M on a neutral field. I really would. I would make Michigan a pick 'em against them. I would make USC a pick 'em against them. Like that's where they are, and that's moving them up as well. I actually have Missouri in my top 20. So Missouri's not all that far behind Texas A&M. I'm tempted to get to the window with Missouri too. It's only a matter of time before the wheels fall off for Texas A&M. They're not finishing this season undefeated. If they do, they're just going to get blown out in the playoffs anyway by a real team.
There you go. Some of those early playoff lines are out, and some of them are a little more shocking. We'll get to one of those during the Barking Dog segment. Marco, is this dog barking? Long list, I looked to try to make a case for LSU, unranked, catching double digits at number 4 Alabama. The total is 50.5. We all know that little situation, teams firing their head coach. Are they on your radar?
Well, Kelly, normally that's exactly where I would start in a game like this, is looking at the team that fired the coach. And especially they had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. The new interim coach takes over. But in this instance, there's 2 reasons why I'm not going to do it. All right. LSU is sitting at 5-3. Okay. They came into the season, and I'll be honest, I was high on them, and I did have them in that first game against Clemson. We had a large play on them. We liked them a lot. I thought they were a legitimate national championship contender. The quarterback is underperformed. The offense in general was underperformed all year. In my opinion, they waited too long to make this change. And granted, when you have a coach like Brian Kelly, you're not going to fire him immediately, but you saw the signs of this all season. And then after the Texas A&M game, when they just absolutely had a pathetic second half, they had the lead at half, and they came out and got the doors blown off them. They had no choice. It's too late in the season. How does this team get excited? Yeah, they're 5-3. They can still go to a bowl game. What bowl game are they going to go to? How do you sell that to a team that really thought they would be playing in the playoffs and have a chance for the national championship? That's why I'm not buying the coaching angle, jumping on the team there. The other reason is Alabama had a bye week as well. And going into the bye week, they had a scare. They played South Carolina. And I got a lot of grief when I gave out South Carolina that week as a play on shows. A lot of pushback, because how could you go against Alabama? And it was the spot. It was a horrible spot for Alabama, coming off a big game the week before, then going into their bye week and having LSU coming out of the bye. They were going to look past South Carolina. South Carolina had been losing. And what happened? South Carolina took them to the fourth quarter. It was late. The game was tied before Alabama got the last touchdown and won by 7 late in the fourth quarter. They're going to be focused for this game. That's why I'm not stepping in front of them. I'm going to go ahead, take Alabama. I'm going to lay the number here. Yes, LSU, they've lived on their defense all year. But, guys, let's be honest. This defense has been struggling lately. Last 2 games, they gave up 31 and 49 points. Their rush defense, and that's important. When a team's got a lead and, laying points, you want that team that's got the lead to be able to run the ball and be successful. Well, the last 4 games, the LSU rush defense has given up 166, 193, 239, and 224. They're getting worse. Let's go ahead, lay it with Alabama here.
Oh, that was kind of a shocker. I totally expected that situational spot from Marco. Very good analysis. VR, let's get into your Steam Room. Guys, if you're new here, you can catch VR Steam Room on Sundays before NFL, but you can catch a mini version of it on Saturdays for college football with me on WagerTalk's Last Call, where we go through a ton of college football info leading up until kickoff. I hope you guys have your odds logic screens open, because VR is going to run through this one rapid fire.
Yep, just going to run down some of the moves that already I've seen confirmation. And what I mean is multiple groups on the same side without resistance. That's the key, especially in college football, where you don't really have the look-aheads that you do in the NFL. So let's start off with the Saturday action. We'll pass on the weekday action. Drop down the Army against Temple. Because anytime that's gotten the bet up to 7, above 7, you've seen some take back on the Temple side. That's one of those where it looks like the real move's on the Temple, just hoping it gets bet up, that the Army side gets bet up. Drop down to Stanford against North Carolina. On the opener got hit at +9, +8.5, +8, all the way down to where it sits now at about a touchdown. So a lot of love on Stanford against North Carolina. Indiana over Penn State. This is one of the more one-sided public games as well. Indiana is one of those teams that is getting love every week at the window. It's up over 2 touchdowns now. That was sharp money, but rest assured, it's the public that's pushing it up. Other team, I'm bringing up Ohio State, they're just getting bet blindly every single week. And usually what happens with the betting syndicates when they see that is they'll bet those teams as well and then middle it. Because betting Ohio State at -28.5 when you know it's going to get above 30, because by Saturday, once the betting public starts getting involved on Ohio State, this will get into the 30s, 31 possibly or so. That's when you'll see some take back on the underdog. So be careful with the top 1, 2, and 3 teams that in the rankings, because they're well aware that those are the teams that are going to attract the most public money. Drop down to Eastern Michigan. Eastern Michigan, that got hit on the money line. Also 1.5 on the Eastern Michigan side. And what else was sticking out real fast? Sorry. Oh, where was that? Yes, Arkansas State against Southern Miss, because I saw money line action. That's what I wanted to pass along. When you see them sprinkling at the same time. So taking the Arkansas State plus the points, and on the money line, home dog there against Southern Miss. I like that side as well. And we'll end it with Oregon State, one of the late games on the board that got action at the opener. Haven't even seen resistance up over 20. So when it got bet below 20, usually when it gets up over 20, you'll see some take back. Has not happened yet. So legit move on Oregon State. Tomorrow, pay attention to your odds logic screen, or at the very least, the free odds screen at WagerTalk. The totals will get hit throughout the day. You'll be able to confirm some. So you should already go in with the totals you like, under or over. You start seeing the market go in that direction. Get the best of the number before it's gone. So that's going to do it for this week's college football steam. Hope you do some damage.
All right, we're going to get right into those barking dogs. And this is one that was on my radar as well, Marco. Auburn, why is another team that fired their coach last week on your radar with a shot to win outright?
All right, at the sake of sounding like I'm bipolar, now I am going to take the team that fired the coach because
Marco, are you off your meds again?
Again?
Yeah. Listen, the comment section last week asked that.
Well, they did, and it was my picks in the NFL. They were, very concerned that I was, off my meds. Well, I can tell you what, not that I actually need the meds, but the one pill that I definitely don't need, I don't need the little blue pill this week after Carolina come home outright last week. So definitely there. We're okay. So thanks for everybody worried about the meds there. But with this one, let's go ahead. We are going to look to the firing of the head coach because this will be a spark. We have that in play to start with. Hugh Freeze, this has been a disappointing year. This team has lost all these games in a row. They have been in games and found ways to lose them. But this is where I jump in. You get that change. You get that jolt of adrenaline, spark, whatever you want to call it, because the players are going to play hard this week because they want to prove it wasn't them. It was the coach. It wasn't them. We're going to get that out of Auburn this week. But we have a second side to the story here, Kelly, the Vanderbilt side. Has there ever been a better classic spot to say lose the same game twice? Vanderbilt was getting their doors blown off on Saturday at Texas. What a dose of reality for them. But then all of a sudden, and I don't, and I watched it and I still don't believe what I saw because I was holding a Texas -3 ticket and got the push. The situation with Vanderbilt coming all the way back, converting 2 2-point conversions. And the one, I still say he didn't break the plane. I don't know what they were looking at, but they ended up with a push. You come all the way back like that and almost win the game. And now, all of the hype that you had in the Cinderella season, that was the dream crusher game for me, losing that one to Texas for Vanderbilt. I always say also, when you got a dog that plays their guts out and comes up short and they go from a dog to the favorite the next week, I want no part of the favorite. All of that lines me up on Auburn here. And then you got a ranked team versus an unranked team playing at home and lines less than a touchdown. All of your alarms should be going off in your house that something's wrong there. They're begging you to take that home favorite that's ranked under the touchdown. I ain't buying it. I'm taking Auburn plus the points. Let's call it Auburn 23-21. A little upset for the new coach.
Ooh. All right. This is the name of the game here on Barking Dogs, where we're rooting for underdogs to win the game outright. And you guys both won yours last week.
Yep.
I did not, but that's another story for another time. VR, you have a team that is also on my long list here on this beautiful Wednesday morning. Tell me why you think Wake Forest has a shot to win this game.
Yeah, put it on the short list. 7-3 on the dogs. 5 of those came in on the money line, including Penn State, UCLA over Penn State, if you remember back in the day. Now, with that said, I know it's boring, but this is what's been making me money. Over and over and over again. I try to keep it simple. I don't try to make it harder than it needs to be. Don't need to be the smartest guy in the room. I have a really, really, really good set of power ratings that I trust from one gentleman, and it's been making me college football money year in and year out and putting me at number one up over 130 units so far in 2025. And here's what they tell me about this Virginia team. They're as phony as you can get. When I look at the rankings and I saw that Virginia's ranked 14th, let me tell you where they're power rated. They're not in the top 10, that's for sure. Fortunately, they're not, thank God, they're not in the ranking top 10. They're not in the top 15. They're not in the top 20, not in the top 25, not in the top 30, not in the top 35, not in the top 40, not in the top 45, not in the top 50. They just cracked the top 55. That's where Virginia sits power rating wise. There are 50 teams in college football that would be favored over Virginia on a neutral field. That's the truth. That doesn't mean the books would make those 50 teams favored, because I'll keep repeating it. The book's job is to manage risk so that they profit. It's not to predict outcomes of sporting events. That's not what they do, okay? Virginia has the 70th toughest strength of schedule. And yet, with that 70th toughest strength of schedule, they're barely a top 50 offense. They're barely a top 70 defense. They just cracked the top 70. And they've just happened to get lucky with a nice, easy schedule. They've had 2 games that were difficult for them. Florida State and Louisville, where they were underdogs. Every other game, they were favored. They did what they're supposed to. They won the game. When they were a dog, first game of the season or second game of the season, NC State, they lost. They won 2 games that were hard for them, where they were dogs. Louisville and Florida State. If you click that box score, what you'll see that both Louisville and Florida State dominated Virginia, destroyed them. If you just looked at the box score, you would think Virginia got annihilated. But then you'll find out one of those 2 teams fumbled the ball 6 times and had 2 interceptions. The other team fumbled the ball 4 times and had 2 interceptions. They got lucky that those opponents played their absolute worst brand of football. And don't go telling me that the defense created those turnovers, because we're talking about the 70th best defense efficient-wise in college football. So they're not creating nothing is what they're doing. Give me Wake Forest plus the points. I don't even like Wake Forest. They're a shit team too. But they're catching points from a real overvalued team. Fade Virginia, sprinkle the money line. Wake Forest gets the money. What are they? Plus 6.5. Buy it up to 7. Don't lay more than 124. If you got to lay more than 124 for the half point, don't do it. Just take the 6.5. We're not even going to need that. But, we're in the business of placing good bets. So if you could buy the half point, you do it. Up to 124 only to get the 7.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Wake Forest is a shit team, and that is my genuine.
Sorry.
Listen, I don't mind betting mediocre teams, but betting on bad teams is so incredibly frustrating.
It is.
And we talk about betting on numbers, not teams. And I understand that is a lot of what we do. And, catching 6.5, 7 with these bad teams is fine. But wanting them to win outright is a lot more difficult, right?
It is.
To get that backdoor cover is not what I want. I want to see a team give me 4 quarters of effort. And you think we're going to get that from Wake Forest, even though they're a shit team.
Yep.
Okay.
No, you're right. And honestly, I shouldn't even think that, they can't win, because I'm placing it because I think that I had that mistake last week in the NFL, where because I like Minnesota and we had that same discussion and you're like, you think they could win the game? And I'm like, I don't think so. You know what I mean?
And then they did.
Exactly. Exactly. So you shouldn't overthink it. If you like the underdog and your work's pointing you to the underdog, then they probably have a shot, unless they're like a 30-point dog, and you should sprinkle.
Yeah, well, you did call UCLA over Penn State, so that's
you get lucky sometimes.
This is probably the biggest underdog to ever cash in the Barking Dogs segment. All right, I'm going to take Iowa plus 6.5. We're all going with the under touchdown underdogs here, and bottom line, I'm taking Iowa. The better defense here, 8-1 against the spread as a single-digit Big Ten home underdog in their last 9 tries. 6-1 against the spread this year. Now, I understand Oregon had a nice road win already this year in the Big Ten at Penn State there in overtime, but they also lost to Indiana right afterwards at home by double digits. That 3-point loss to Iowa State is far in the rearview mirror for the Hawkeyes. And if you remember, they took that same Indiana team to the wire and had multiple shots to win it. Gronkowski, 68% on the season, and has rushed for over 225 yards with 8 touchdowns. This kid is a great quarterback. And normally we see these guys that stand in the pocket too long for Iowa. But with Brian Ferentz gone, this Iowa offense is different. And I think that they have an opportunity to not only cover this game, but win it there in Kinnick. Marco D'Angelo, the deli, as I mentioned to start the show, has just been rocking and rolling all season long. Guys, if you like the deli, you can watch it here on the college football edition of Bet On, the NFL edition of Bet On, or on Fridays.
Yum.
We put out an entire deli segment standalone here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Last week was 4-1, 27-17 on the season. Marco, we got a little sandwich spot here for the Florida Gators.
Yeah, Kelly, the Deli has been great this season, 6-2-1, winning week-wise for it. And the NFL play on the show, 8-1 this year. So be sure to check out the Deli. It'll be out on Thursday. And for the sandwich game this week, Kelly, man, we've had a lot of games involving fired coaches this week. And this is going to be another one. And last week when we talked about Florida, we didn't know how Florida was going to react to the coach being fired, because it's probably the only time that I can remember a coach being fired after winning a football game. But that's what happened to Billy Napier. They fired him. They had their bye week, and they had a big game coming against Georgia. I didn't know how that team would respond. Well, they did respond, and they played their guts out, and they took Georgia to the limit, losing 24-20. Now, for bettors in that game, if you had Georgia or you had the over, I feel for you, because if you didn't see it, they took it. The guy broke around the end and went down at the 1 yard line at the end of the game with a minute to play to run out the clock. They would have walked in for the touchdown, for the cover, or walked in for sending the game over as well. So that was a crazy ending last week. But here's the reality. Florida did show up to play. But now they're at 2-5, and they had that initial game after firing the coach. They're in a mammoth sandwich spot here. Coming off that game, I can't look to play them this week, because at 2-5, what's to get excited about for this team? The only time they're going to get excited is going to be playing a game like they did last week against the big name Georgia, where they could play spoiler, or when they play the rivalry game at the end of the season against Florida State. I think they are a mail it in the rest of the way. They're not going to be excited going to play Kentucky in this game. And even though Florida's having a horrible season, for a team like Kentucky to beat that name, Florida, that's a big deal for them. And Kentucky they broke their 4-game losing streak last week. They won as a 12-point dog at Auburn, the game that got Hugh Freeze fired. So as a home dog, they're live. Explain to me how Florida is favored in this game. They're favored by their name, not by the way they're playing. I got to take Kentucky in this one. I am going to grab the points. Not going to need them. I see Kentucky winning this one 24-20. Sandwich game of the week. Let's take the Kentucky Wildcats.
Marco, I just realized my best bet is also a sandwich spot. I had to look up something really quick, and I thought, let's see if Marco likes that one. But we're going to get into these so-called best bets that we swept last week so easily. Nebraska, damn it, had opportunities to win that game. But that's okay. They got the cover, and that's what matters. VR, a team that you think is going to get the cover this week is the Kansas Jayhawks.
Rock Chalk Jayhawks on the road, baby. Yeah. Now all the talk is you're going to start hearing about the bowl eligibility. And narrative about this around this game is Arizona needs this win, bowl eligibility, because it doesn't get much easier than that. Their opponents remaining have a combined 23-13 record. So they're going to be underdogs, in other words, after this game. So this is a big game, and you're being asked to pay a premium because of that. The bottom line is this is as close to a coin flip as you're going to get. And Arizona's getting just way too much respect for home field advantage. Granted, they're 4-1 at home this year. Yeah, 4-1 at home, 1-2 on the road. And I've talked about it throughout this season. That, to me, is a strong home field advantage currently. Because, again, we take an average when we try to determine what a team's home field advantage is. And you look over the last 5 years, over the last 10 years, what's the point differential at home? You create a home point advantage. But year by year, teams differ. So I like to look at recent. Is it really a home field advantage in 2025? And obviously it is. They played a lot better at home than they have on the road. The problem is the price is just too high. When I look at my power ratings, these teams are very comparable to each other. I have Arizona as the 44th power rated team in the country, and I have Kansas as the 46th power rated team in the country. Kansas had a tougher strength of schedule. Offense, almost identical efficient-wise. Defense, give the edge to Arizona, but that's offset by the strength of schedule, that Kansas had the tougher strength of schedule. This is why I continue to come to the conclusion that this game is a coin flip out of home, factor in home field advantage. And the most I'm going to give Arizona for home field advantage, 2 points, 2.2 points, maybe not 2.5, maybe 2.5 at the most. Again, getting more than a field goal puts me on the Kansas side. I like both these teams also, especially Kansas ending that losing streak. They lost to Kansas State. They lost to Texas Tech, beat up on Oklahoma State, got that confidence, and heading into Arizona. I think they keep it close till the very end with a chance to win it. Just don't turn the ball over. You'll get me a best bet winner. I released them to subscribers as a 4%, so got to the window already with them. We took +5. They're good down to +4, but I wouldn't wait too long because it's a sharp side.
All right, VR, at 4.5, a little bit on the odds logic screen. How much percentage would you put on the money line? Would you do 95.5?
90-10.
90-10? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I do like Kansas. They're a little too short to make my underdog parlay, but I will be joining you plus the points. Marco D'Angelo, you're going to be a chalk-eating weasel this week. I was hoping we all just went with more underdogs because that's just my favorite. But you think this is a good spot to take a team laying 9.5 here against, I wasn't even looking at this game. Why Liberty?
Why Liberty? Well, we talk about buying low and selling high, but speaking of buying, Kelly, we got to do a little promotion here before the best bet. We got a special going this week involving me at WagerTalk. And if you like the plays the way we're doing them here on the show this year and you want to get on board for my premium plays for my clients, this is the week to do it. You know, we've been running that $49 Weekend Warrior package. That's still available. But guys, you want to get a full 7 days for $15 more? Yeah, we're offering this week. I do it every year. It's my birthday week, and we sell the week for my birthday price. That means you can get the entire week, 7 days of service for just $64 this week. That's just $15 more than the Weekend Warrior. And guys, we are on a roll. Last 6 days since last Thursday, we're taping here on Wednesday. We're on an 11-2 run for our clients. We've made them over $2,500 during that run, and we hit another 5% play. I won't mention who it was because Kelly will have Dan shut my mic off, but it was a 43-20 winner last week, laying 7 in the Big 12. You can figure it out from there. We're now 35-16 on those 5% plays. You'll get one of those this week as well, and they sell for $35 by themselves. So the $64 package is the way to go. Join me for Marco's birthday bash this week. Now for this best bet, we've got Liberty, and we're going to lay the 7.5 here. And this is a situation with Liberty. Going into the season, every sharp I know had Liberty running away with Conference USA this year. But a 4-game losing streak to start the season derailed them early on. They have now won 3 in a row, and they are playing at the level that brought them all of the attention at the beginning of the season that we thought they would be playing with. The turnaround comes thanks to Liberty's defense, as they fixed what was wrong, and that was the rush defense. In their first 5 games, they were allowing an average of 164 yards per game. Over the last 3 games, they've allowed an average of just 92 yards per game. Now, here's the thing. That bad start at the beginning of the season, a lot of it was out of conference. In conference, they're sitting at 3-1. They're only 1 game behind the 2 conference leaders who are at 4-0. To me, this is an absolute buy low spot on Liberty at 7.5. My numbers say it should be closer to 10. And too often what happens is people don't adjust their numbers correctly as they go through the season. They look at a season average as far as numbers go, and they draw their conclusion. You can't compare what somebody did in September to what they did in October, especially when it's out of conference schedules where you're playing those games in September. And a lot of times you've got teams that have inflated numbers because they play little sisters of the poor, or you have teams that play worse because they play above their heads in the month of September. Liberty's flying under the radar, playing their best ball right now. I'm riding them this week. I've got Liberty rolling over Missouri State.
All right, I need the comment section to get ready. I've got something really important I need all of you guys to do. Hit your cap locks button and type "Happy Birthday, Marco" with about 18 exclamation points. Happy early birthday, Marco.
Happy birthday,
D'Angelo.
Thank you.
Usually when we were back in studio, I would bring you a cake, but it's kind of pointless now because I don't need to eat the cake, so I'm not bringing it even as a prop. We're going to take a nice underdog, and this was a team that it's on my list. I like them plus the points. I haven't gotten to the window with the money line. I need a little bit more time before Wednesday morning to decide if they can win this game outright. And that team, of course, is UConn. You guys remember, we took UConn just a few short weeks ago. I think it was week 2, and they blew a double-digit lead to Syracuse. That was the first pain of the underdog parlay this year. But Jim Mora still very good against the ACC, 8-3-1 against the spread in his tenure there in Connecticut. And if you remember, we bet against UConn at Delaware. And that was a double-digit side. I don't know if they can win the game outright, and they did. So UConn back in this spot where they're catching points here at home. And oh, by the way, this is a massive sandwich spot for Duke. Duke last week. Yep, that's right. Clemson next week. Oh, just little old Virginia on deck. That's right. And hey, I really like UConn's quarterback. 22 touchdowns, 0 interceptions on the season against Duke's 113th ranked passing defense. Something to keep in mind there. Again, Jim Mora have been great against the spread, particularly as a home underdog, 14-7. Last year, they won 3 games in this spot. And just a few short weeks ago, they were able to go and beat Boston College. Maybe they get their revenge on this Duke team last year. If you guys remember, Duke was a huge favorite headed in to this game and hit that long field goal to win 26-21. Duke kind of ran the clock out after that. Man, did UConn fight this team tough. I expect more fight from them here on Saturday. Give me the 9.5 here with the Huskies, and check out my 3-team underdog parlay to see if we end up betting them on the money line. Bring everybody back in. We always appreciate the comments from you guys. Love us. You hate us. You love our bets. You hate our bets. We don't care. Just get those keyboard fingers ready. Marco and VR had a lot of fun last week reading the comments.
Oh, I loved it.
This coming back, it just makes
watch the NFL show. Me and Marco got some revenge coming.
Yeah.
Oh, even better. Yes. If you guys do want to check out that NFL show, it will be up on the WagerTalk YouTube channel right here. And of course, the mega show you never want to miss. 2 straight hours of bet on it.